I was just a kid, 16, when I first heard it on the radio. It was a quiet day. I was in the kitchen, maybe peeling a potato, maybe just fiddling around because, you know, that's what kids do when they don't have anywhere better to be. Then the music stopped. The man's voice came on, serious, low, like the weight of the whole world was pressing on his chest as he spoke. December 7th, 1941. A date which will live in infamy. I didn't even know what the word infamy meant. Not exactly. But I felt it in my stomach. The kind of word that makes your skin crawl before your brain catches up. The Empire of Japan had attacked Pearl Harbor. And suddenly, the world wasn't just far away in black and white newsreels anymore. It was right there in the kitchen with me. I kept thinking about it for days. I couldn't stop. I was just a small-town boy from Ohio, but I had this fire in me. I thought I'd like to join the Navy. Maybe it was dumb. Maybe it was brave. Maybe both. All I knew was I couldn't sit around peeling potatoes while other boys were out there fighting. So I quit school, told my folks I was enlisting, even though I wasn't quite 17 yet. My birthday was only 2 days away, but it didn't matter to me. I just wanted in. I wanted to do something. At Great Lakes, they took me in, sure. But I was still officially too young. They made me wait. For 2 whole days, I just sat there while the other boys trained. I didn't do nothing. They wouldn't let me. It was like being grounded on Christmas Eve. Then, finally, the day came. I turned 17. They put me out in the field, started me on my Navy career, and, brother, everything was hard. Everything. I'd never even been away from home before. The food tasted like boiled rubber. The boots gave me blisters that bled through my socks. And the yelling never stopped. I was scared to death, but I made it. And not long after that, they shipped me off. Early 1945, they sent me to the South Pacific aboard the USS Dickens, an attack transport. Our mission? To get ready for the invasion of Iwo Jima. I'd never heard of Iwo Jima before. I didn't know it was going to be hell on earth. My job was to drive a little landing craft. We called it a duck. It was just a metal box that floated, barely. My job was to take Marines and supplies to the shore and bring back the wounded. Over and over, back and forth. The night before the invasion, nobody slept. I was in my bunk, eyes wide open, listening to the big 16-inch guns going off like thunder from the belly of the ship. Shells flying toward the beach, lighting up the sky like it was the 4th of July. Only it wasn't. There was nothing to celebrate. I was shaking. Not from the cold. It was hot down there. Just pure fear. I knew we were going into hell, and I didn't think I'd come back out. And then, something happened. It sounds crazy even now, but it happened. There was a presence in my bunk. I swear to God. A soft light. A figure. Like a woman, but not someone I recognized. She stood at the edge of my bunk and spoke. Just once. "You're gonna be all right," she said. "They've got plans for you. Don't take any chances." Then she was gone. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. But somehow I felt different. Like maybe I had something watching over me. Next morning, they loaded us up, lowered a cargo net into our boat, and dropped down big wooden crates. I looked at the labels. Hand grenades. That's when I thought, Lord, if we get hit, there won't be nothing left of us to bury. We were basically riding into war, sitting on a pile of bombs. I took the first trip into shore, and let me tell you, the shelling hadn't done much to soften those defenses. The Japanese were dug in like ticks. Bullets whistled over us, splashes exploding around the duck like rain from hell. I was just a kid, just 17, and I was about to see things no kid should ever see. It wasn't long after we hit the water that I realized none of the training we had back in Great Lakes could have prepared us for what was waiting on that beach. You always think in war you'll have time to breathe. Maybe some warning, some signal that you're about to be in the middle of something awful. But there's no warning in war. 1 minute you're watching the waves, the next minute hell opens up. We were making our run in, and you could see the beach ahead. But not like a beach you'd want to walk barefoot on. This one was black sand, torn up, smoking, full of holes from the bombardment. And still, it wasn't enough. The Japanese weren't on the beach. They were in it, dug deep into tunnels and caves with machine guns and mortars, just waiting. We were just sitting ducks, no pun intended. I remember one duck coming in beside us, full of Marines, young guys like me. And then, boom. One shell, just one, direct hit, right in the middle of their boat. That sound, I can't forget it. Not a scream. Not really. Just a crack and a flash, then silence, then chaos. Debris everywhere. Bits of boat, bits of people. And then somebody shouted over the roar. Told me to pull up next to the wreck and check for dog tags. Dog tags! That's what they said. Like I was supposed to jump into that twisted mess and fish out names from the dead. But I did it. I climbed into what was left of that duck, and what I saw, God, there wasn't a single whole body. Just arms, legs, faces half there, the rest gone. Blood soaking into the water. I tried not to breathe, tried not to throw up. But the smell, it sticks to you. Iron, salt, smoke, something burned. It all stays with you. I jumped back out as fast as I could. They asked, "Did you get any tags?" I looked at them, just looked. And I said, "If you want dog tags, you go in and get them." That night, I didn't sleep. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back in that boat, reaching through blood, through bodies that used to be boys like me. That happened every night for weeks, maybe months. You grow up real fast in a place like that. The next few days were the same. Trip after trip from the ship to the beach, carrying crates of ammo, water, Marines, and sometimes bringing back bodies. We'd stack them, line them up, try not to look too hard at their faces. That beach, it wasn't even a beach anymore. It was a graveyard, Marines laid out everywhere. Some still alive, moaning for their mothers. Others already gone, staring up at the sky like they were waiting for something, and we just kept going. I saw a guy, maybe 19, get hit in the neck right in front of me. Blood sprayed out like a fountain. He grabbed my arm, eyes wide, and then he was gone. Just like that. No last words. No chance to say anything. That's the part people don't get about war. It's not like the movies. There's no music swelling up, no heroic speeches, just noise and fear and silence. We made it through Iwo Jima, somehow. But then came Okinawa. Thought it might be better. It wasn't. We were parked right next to an LST when a Japanese suicide plane came down. 1 second, we're unloading cargo. The next, there's a whine in the sky and a massive explosion. The ship beside us went up in flames and sank within minutes. Some of the guys were still inside. And the worst thing? You just keep moving. You don't stop to mourn or cry or even think. You just keep doing your job. That's the only way to survive. And sometimes, even that ain't enough. After Okinawa, I think something in me changed. Maybe it broke. I don't know. I stopped trying to make sense of anything. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the beach, the bodies, the smoke. But you can't walk around like that, scared all the time, so you just bury it deep. You laugh when someone tells a dumb joke. You eat when the chow bell rings. You pretend things are fine, but they ain't. We were still moving, still working. The next orders came. The USS Dickens was heading to the Philippines. We figured it'd be a break. Most of the islands had been liberated by then. Maybe we could catch our breath. But nothing ever goes smooth in war. Even though the major battles were over, the hills were crawling with Japanese soldiers who hadn't surrendered. They came down at night, ghosts with rifles, and they'd do whatever they could to scare the locals, or worse. So our job became something else. We were told to transport civilians from one island to another, get them somewhere safer, away from the areas where the Japanese were still hiding out. It was the kind of work you didn't think too hard about. Load up women and kids. Move them to where it was quiet. One of those trips, we brought a group on board. Whole families, tired, dirty, scared. There was this one woman, couldn't have been more than 25, and she was pregnant. Real close to delivering, you could tell. She was breathing hard, holding her belly, sweating like crazy in the heat. I told her, "We'll get you to sick bay." Didn't even make it halfway down the deck. She dropped right there, laid out on the steel like it was her bed. The baby was coming. And the thing is, nobody else was around except me. I was 17, just going on 18. I'd never even seen a baby being born. And now I was the only one standing between her and that baby hitting the deck. And Lord, was it hot. The sun beat down like fire, and the steel of that ship felt like it could cook a steak. I knew if that baby touched the metal, it'd burn its skin clean off. So I dropped to my knees and caught him. This little boy, slippery, crying, full of life in a place full of death. I started yelling, "Medic! Somebody get up here!" Nobody came. Another guy finally showed up and said, "You gotta tie the cord off and cut it." Just like that. Like it was nothing. I had a knife in my boot. I pulled it out, hands shaking, and after he tied it, I cut that cord. I didn't know what I was doing, but that little boy, he made it. A couple days later, they called me over the PA system, told me to report to sick bay. I figured I was in trouble for something. But when I got there, it was her, the mother. She was sitting up in the cot, smiling, holding the baby, and she handed him to me, said, "Thank you." He was the tiniest thing I'd ever held, just looking at me with those big eyes. Not crying, not fussing, just looking, like he knew me, like he understood what had happened. I held him for a minute, maybe two. Then I handed him back. After that, everyone on the ship started calling me Dr. Don. I'd walk past and hear, "Hey, Doc," and they'd all laugh. I laughed too, but inside I was thinking, that's the last time I ever want to do something like that again. War is strange like that. One minute you're ducking bullets, the next you're delivering babies. And through it all, you're still just a kid, trying to figure out what kind of man you're supposed to become. Life on the ship after that started to feel a little quieter. There weren't as many explosions, no screaming engines or suicide planes dropping from the sky, just routine, the kind that slowly creeps back in when war begins to loosen its grip. In the Philippines, the days stretched out longer, hotter. Most of the major fighting had died down, but we still kept an eye out for enemy movement in the hills. The Japanese soldiers who hadn't surrendered were desperate, and desperate men do dangerous things. But for the first time in a long time, we had Sundays. Real Sundays. Days where you could hear birds instead of gunfire. Days where you could think about more than just making it through the next hour. One Sunday, I was just walking. Nothing to do, no assignments. I passed this little church near the edge of town. White walls, a roof patched with rusted tin, but inside it was peaceful. Cool even. I figured, why not? It had been a long time since I'd sat in a church. I walked in, and there was this family sitting just a couple rows up. Man, wife, and a girl. She turned around when I sat behind them. Her eyes met mine for just a second. That was all it took. Her name was Lestrina. After the service, the man introduced himself. Said they'd be honored if I came by their home for dinner. I didn't want to seem too eager, so I nodded and thanked him. But the truth was, I couldn't stop smiling the whole way there. Their house was simple, built of wood and stone, tucked under some palms. Her mother cooked a meal that reminded me of home, warm, filling, full of laughter around the table. We talked for hours. I told them about Ohio, about quitting school, about my parents. They listened like it all mattered. And Lestrina, she just sat there, quiet, smiling, listening. Over the next few weeks, I kept going back. sometimes just to talk with her father, sometimes just to sit on the porch and listen to the wind, but mostly to be with her. She was kind, gentle, the kind of girl who looked you in the eyes when you spoke and never seemed rushed, even when the world was falling apart. One night, her father pulled me aside, said, "If you stay here, if you marry her, you'll never have to work a day in your life. We'll take care of you." I didn't know what to say, because deep down, I was thinking maybe I could stay. Maybe the war would end, and I wouldn't have to go back to Ohio. Maybe I could make a life here with her. That Saturday, I visited again. We sat under the tree behind her house. She gave me a small ring, nothing fancy, just a token. She said she wanted me to come by Sunday for dinner again. Said she had something important to ask me. I told her I would. I promised. But when I showed up the next day, everything felt wrong. There were people outside the house. Quiet. Mourning. Her father met me at the door, eyes swollen and red. He didn't say anything, just took my hand and led me inside. I saw the table first, the big dining room table where we had shared dinner just the week before. Only now, there was a long white gown spread out on it, and Lestrina was lying there, still, pale, silent. I remember asking, "What happened?" Her father didn't speak at first. Then he looked me in the eye and said the words that tore something from me. "They came down out of the hills last night. The Japanese, they raped her, and then they killed her." He unbuttoned the front of the gown, gently, like he didn't want to hurt her even now, showed me the wound, a bayonet mark, long, deep, just above her stomach. I didn't cry right away. I couldn't. My chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left me standing there with nothing but air and memory. I walked out of that house a different person. War doesn't just kill people. It kills futures. After that day, I stopped going into town. Couldn't walk those roads anymore. Couldn't look at the trees or the porch swing or the little church without seeing her there, her voice, her smile. That ring she gave me. I kept it, tied it up in a piece of cloth and tucked it into the inside flap of my sea bag. It wasn't worth anything, not in dollars or gold. But to me, it was heavier than anything I'd ever carried. Heavier than the crates of grenades. Heavier than the weight of death that followed me from Iwo Jima. That was the moment I truly felt like the war had taken something personal. Before then, it was always them and us. The enemy was a face in a uniform, far away on a hill. But now it was right in my lap. Someone I cared about. Gone. For no reason other than they were evil. Cowards. I went back to the ship and threw myself into the work. Long hours. Every shift. Anything to keep my mind from thinking. Some nights, I slept sitting up with my boots on, just so I wouldn't dream. Because when I did, I always ended up back at that dining room table, seeing her face, hearing her voice, and then silence. But time doesn't stop. Not even for grief. We got word that preparations were starting for something big. The invasion of Japan. They were calling it Operation Downfall. Everyone knew it was going to be worse than anything we'd seen so far. They said the Japanese would fight to the last man, woman, and child. There were rumors. Insane casualty numbers, both American and Japanese. Some guys started writing letters home, not knowing if they'd get the chance later. We were told we'd be part of the landing force. I didn't feel anything. No fear, no excitement. Just empty. The Dickens started loading gear. Marines came aboard. The mood was heavy. Everyone knew we were heading into what could be the final and bloodiest chapter of the war. But then, we got word over the loudspeakers. The voices didn't sound real at first, like maybe it was a prank or some joke too cruel to laugh at. Japan had surrendered. It was over. Just like that. It was over. I remember standing on the deck, staring out at the water. It was calm that day. The sky was soft, kind even, like it hadn't seen everything we'd seen. I didn't cheer. Some of the guys did, but not me. I just stood there and whispered something I hadn't said since I was a kid. Thank you. Not long after, they started shipping us back home. We packed what little we had, folded up our uniforms, and boarded a transport. When I finally stepped off that ship and set foot back on American soil, everything looked different. Smaller somehow, cleaner, but also too quiet. The kind of quiet that made you uneasy. People clapped for us, cheered, threw streamers, waved flags, but they didn't know. They couldn't. How could you explain to someone what it felt like to fish pieces of a friend out of a blown-up duck? Or to hold a newborn in your hands while its mother bled onto the deck? Or to walk into a room expecting dinner and instead find death laid out like a guest at the table? You couldn't. So you just smiled, nodded, took the handshake and said, "Thank you," even when part of you wanted to scream. Eventually, I settled down, got a job, started a life. I tried to be normal, whatever that meant. Got married, had kids. Time moved on. But the war, it didn't leave me. You don't just walk away from something like that. You carry it with you, in your bones, your breath, your sleep. In the quiet moments, it whispers. In the loud ones, it hides. But it never leaves. Years passed, like pages turning in a book I wasn't always ready to read. Some chapters felt bright, the kind with sunlight, laughter, the smell of Sunday roast in the kitchen. Others were quieter, heavier, the kind where even the walls seemed to remember things I was trying to forget. I had a family, kids of my own, little ones that would climb onto my lap and ask questions I couldn't always answer. "Did you win the war, Daddy?" I'd smile and say yes, but in my heart, I didn't feel like I'd won anything. I survived it. That's all. The real winners, if you ask me, were the ones who never had to come home with the memories. Still, I tried. I built a life. A good one. One where I went to work, mowed the lawn, waved to neighbors. I was quiet, kept to myself more than most. But I was there, present, doing what I could. The years rolled by. And then, in 1992, long after the kids were grown and I'd buried more than a few friends, I met Louise. She was something else. Soft-spoken, smart, eyes that looked like they'd seen their own share of heartache. We understood each other. We were both older, both carrying ghosts, though hers were different than mine. But there was peace between us, the kind that doesn't come from fireworks or wild love stories, just calm, respect, a deep, steady kind of love. We got married. People asked us why. "You're already old," they said. "Why start over now?" But Louise, she made life feel like it still had something left to offer. Mornings with coffee, afternoons in the garden, nights spent side by side with the radio, humming soft music. Then, only a few years into our marriage, she had the stroke. Just like that, everything changed. She couldn't talk the way she used to. Couldn't move without help. Some days, she didn't know who I was. Other days, she'd grab my hand and whisper something, just a word or two, and I'd see the woman I married shining through. The doctors said she'd need constant care. I told them I'd take care of her. They looked at me like I was crazy. I was already in my 60s. I'd fought a war, worked a full life, raised a family. Now I was going to spend every day looking after a woman who might not even remember my name? Yes, I was. Because that's what love is. Not the wedding. Not the good days. Not the stories people post in the paper. It's the hard stuff. The feeding her with shaking hands. The cleaning her up when she can't get to the bathroom. The sitting beside her in the quiet when she can't speak. And just being there. And I remembered something else, too. That night before Iwo Jima. When I thought I was going to die, that angel appeared to me. She said they had plans for me, that I was going to be all right, that I had a purpose. But I had to be careful, had to stay alive. For years, I wondered what that meant. But when I looked at Louise, laying in that hospital bed, helpless, eyes fluttering up to meet mine, I knew that was it. That was the plan. I was meant to take care of her, and I did. Every single day, I fed her, bathed her, prayed with her, sat by her window and told her stories when she couldn't sleep. I was there through every fall, every nurse's visit, every whisper of pain. And it wasn't a burden. It was a privilege. She was the last person I ever truly gave my heart to. And I don't regret a second of it. Sometimes people ask me now, what was the hardest thing you ever did? They expect me to say Iwo Jima, or Okinawa, or watching my buddies die in the Pacific. But the truth? It was watching the woman I loved slip away piece by piece and choosing every day to stay. Because war takes life, but love gives it back. One quiet moment at a time. Louise passed on a quiet morning. The sun was just starting to come up, painting the windows in that soft orange glow she always liked. I was sitting beside her, holding her hand like I always did, humming one of those old hymns she loved but couldn't sing anymore. Her breathing had been slow for days, like her body was fading gently, not fighting it, just letting go. And then she was gone, just like that. No pain, no sudden gasp, just a long, slow exhale and silence. I didn't cry right away. I just sat there, still holding her hand. Like maybe if I kept holding it, she wouldn't leave all the way. But I could feel it. That stillness, that quiet finality. I kissed her forehead and whispered, "You did good, honey. You can rest now." The funeral was small. We didn't need a big fuss. She wouldn't have wanted that. Just family, a few friends, and the pastor from the little church down the road. I picked her favorite dress, the blue one with the white flowers. She always said it made her feel young. I tucked a photograph of the two of us into her hands. One where we were both laughing, caught off guard, no posing. Just real. After it was over, people came up, gave their condolences, said things like, "She was lucky to have you," or "You were a good man." Don, I nodded, thanked them, shook hands. But that night, sitting alone in the house we'd once filled with laughter, I broke. Everything I'd kept locked up, from the war, from Lestrina, from Louise's illness, came flooding back like a wave that had waited 50 years to crash. I cried like I hadn't cried since I was 17. And somewhere in that darkness, I remembered the angel, that voice on the night before Iwo Jima, standing at the edge of my bunk, telling me I'd be all right, that they had plans for me. I hadn't thought about her in years, but now I could hear her again, clear, soft, steady. They had plans for me not to fight forever, not to carry the weight of war for nothing, but to live, to love, to take care of the people who needed me. And I realized something else, too. Maybe I had carried all those memories for a reason. Maybe someone had to remember. Not just the facts and figures in textbooks, but the truth. The smell of burning ships, the sound of a baby crying on a steel deck, the feel of a girl's hand as she slips you a ring and smiles. So I started writing. At first, just in a notebook. Then on a typewriter. Then, after some young fella showed me how, I started recording my voice, just talking into a little tape recorder, telling the stories that had been buried for decades. Not for glory, not for pity, but so they wouldn't disappear with me. Because the war, it wasn't just bullets and blood. It was moments, some terrible, some holy, and I had lived through them all. People ask me, "Do you still believe in that angel?" I tell them yes, because she wasn't just a dream. She was a promise. And every time I held Louise's hand, every time I helped a stranger, or laughed with a grandchild, or sat alone in the quiet and remembered. I felt her close. She never said much. Just that one line. But I never forgot it. You're gonna be all right. They have plans for you. Don't take any chances. And I didn't. I lived the life they gave me. I loved. I hurt. I remembered. And through it all, I kept going. Now I'm an old man, older than I ever expected to be. Older than most of the boys I served with ever got the chance to be. My hands shake sometimes when I hold my coffee. My knees creak when I walk down the stairs. And I talk to myself more than I used to. But I'm still here. And I think about them. All of them. The faces come back when I least expect it. A sound, a smell, a name I haven't heard in decades. And suddenly, I'm there again. On the beach. In the boat. In the heat. In the silence that always came after the noise. I still see the duck, the one that got hit. I still see the Marines on the sand. I see the woman tossing her baby over the cliff in Okinawa, her face twisted in terror from lies she'd been told. I see Lestrina in that gown, on that table. I see Louise smiling from her chair, even when she couldn't say a word. I carry them all with me. People call me a hero sometimes. I never know what to say to that. Heroes are the ones who didn't come home. The ones who gave everything and got nothing in return but silence and a folded flag. Me? I was just a kid who kept going. I didn't win any medals worth bragging about. I didn't do anything special. I was scared most of the time. I cried when no one was looking. But I showed up. I did what I had to. I took care of people. That's all. The world is different now. Kids today, they grow up fast in other ways. They have their battles. Maybe not with bullets, but with other kinds of pain. Loneliness. Fear. Not knowing who they're supposed to be. If I could tell them one thing, it'd be this: keep going, even when it hurts, even when you've lost everything, even when the people you love are gone, and all you've got left is a name and a ring in your pocket. Keep going, because somewhere down the line, you'll find purpose again. Maybe it'll be small. Maybe it won't make the newspapers, but it'll matter. It mattered that I caught that baby on the deck. It mattered that I sat by my wife's side every day after her stroke. It mattered that I remembered, that I never forgot. And when my time comes, when I close my eyes for the last time, I hope that angel is there again. Same as before. Soft light. Kind voice, no fear, and I hope she says, "You did it. You made it. You kept the promise." Because I did. I never took chances I didn't have to. I lived a life with scars, yes, but also with love. And if you ask me whether it was worth it, all the pain, the loss, the memories that still wake me up some nights, yes, 1,000 times yes. Because war is terrible. It is, but life is something worth fighting for.